Hello and welcome to Talk It Out, where we talk it out. My name is Duryea Rashad, and it is Thanksgiving, my favorite Thursday of the year, where everybody gets to break their diet goals. They get to see family members. This is the time of year where everybody starts to think about kindness first. And so it's my favorite time of year. It's corny, but I don't care. So if you haven't been to Talk It Out before, this is a place where people of opposing views can get together and have a healthy and productive dialogue in a respectful way, keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right and who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Now, before we introduce our illustrious Thanksgiving panel for this evening, I want to remind you to go to Facebook and like our page at Whoa Nelly Media. You can also like our page on YouTube you can also find us on YouTube by searching Whoa Nelly Media and clicking us to subscribe to our channel there. We're also found on Instagram at Whoa Nelly Media and WNM_Talk It Out. Now, without any further ado, I would like to introduce our illustrious panel. First, let's talk about our returning panelists. I'm going to go with Ricky Z. Boom. Ricky Z is a mom, an educator, a social media manager, and she is the panelist on our sister podcast, Geeking Out. And we just had one of the most bananas bonkers episodes ever, last episode, where we talked about shows that were canceled too soon. How are you doing, Ricky?
I'm doing all great. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy Thanksgiving.
Ooh,
so
yes.
Tell everybody about that fish that you had, that good old fried fish you just had.
That was my uncle who cooks. You have that one family member that doesn't live near you, and when you find out they cook something, you're really upset and betrayed and heartbroken.
Right.
That for some reason that they cook and we're near them to be able to eat it.
Enjoy the food. Right.
That's my uncle right there that I just happened to be near.
Okay.
And he fried some fish and it was delicious.
And this time you were close, so you were able to enjoy
I was close enough. Socially distant with my mask. But yes.
I'm interested to see because some places are talking about law being enforced if people have gatherings right now, other stuff. So I don't know. It's an interesting topic to debate, which we may talk about in current events, maybe not.
Right.
All right. Our next panelist, let me see, is going to be Mr. Justin Draper. Justin Draper is a returning panelist. He's also been a panelist on, he's also been a panelist on Geeking Out, probably our most common guest host, which is really only twice, but still. He is a performing arts coach in Dallas, Texas. How are you doing, Justin?
I'm fantabulous. How are you doing?
I'm great. Happy Thanksgiving.
Happy giving of thanks. How are you?
Happy giving of thanks. Right. So, did you get? I think I already asked you this, but you didn't get any food today, huh?
No, I didn't, unfortunately. But I am saving up all of my calories for the long trudge back to the classroom on Monday. So I'm just going to eat my feelings then. And,
why is it a long trudge?
Because I've been off for, a week and some change for the holiday break. And it's going to be an ugly morning come Monday with me looking in the mirror and yeah.
And actually knowing you have to go to work. I know what you're talking about. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Our next returning panelist is Mr. Danny Yoon. How are you doing, Danny?
Hey, what's going on, everybody? I'm here.
He is here. Danny is a storyteller and a writer working for Catalyst Game Labs, where he leads development of the Shadowrun RPG official campaign. He's also the content director for Rim Alternus, a creative media outlet. They'll be publishing the first part of his graphic series, Coddlesworth Clockwork Circus, this winter. When he's not paneling for Talk It Out, he's tormenting me on Tuesdays in a Shadowrun live stream at twitch.tv/Master of Rim. Yes, it is absolute torment. I'm the mage. Whenever anybody does any sort of magic stuff, he's like, nope, that's how it feels. I don't know if that's the truth, but that's how it feels. So Anyone who knows what that's like to like do what it's not a it's RPG role playing game, right? It's infuriating. All right, how you doing, Danny?
I'm here. We're here doing the thing. Thanksgiving Day.
Excellent. Okay, and we're bringing in our final panelist for this evening. This is one of the most chill people that is on the planet. Period. If you know her, you love her. Period. She's incredibly smart. She's one of my first professors and probably one of the most easiest people I've ever met to get along with. This is Miss Kimberly Manuel. How you doing, Kim?
Very good.
Oh, I'm so glad that you're here.
Thank you for having me.
I'm so glad that you're. I can't wait for this conversation. Okay, Kim Manuel is a lover of all things eclectic, artistic, and unique. Those who know her best would describe her as a Jill of all trades. But skills still to be mastered include auto repair, plumbing, and masonry. Learning all she can is her lifelong quest, and so it's fitting that she's an assistant professor of theater and design at Graceland University in small town Lamoni, Iowa. Some choose theater as a career, but for her, theater is a part of who she is and always will be. I told y'all she's just, oh my God. I love that.
I love it.
I love that. It was so deep and insightful. I loved it. Okay. How are you doing, Kim?
I'm doing great.
Excellent.
Very relaxing day hanging out with my mom.
Me and my mom had a very relaxing day, surprisingly. We cooked together and we didn't have one argument. Yes. The night is still young, but okay. All right. So now my check-in, how I'm doing for this week. I'm doing great. Had a great Thanksgiving. I'm in a very similar headspace to everyone here. Nice chilled day. I'm excited about our topic tonight. It's a special Thanksgiving Day episode because we love you guys at home and we want to make sure y'all have something to watch every Thursday. Something for y'all to sit around and talk shit about. So we're going to get into our current events because I know that's what y'all want to get to. All right, but first, before we go into our current events, let's pause for a short ad break.
Hey everybody, my name's Chris.
I'm Duryea.
I'm Ricky Z.
Justin.
And Julian.
Have you heard about Anchor.fm? It's the easiest way to make a podcast. First off, it's free.
Oh, I love free, especially when we're talking creation tools that allow you to record and edit right from your phone and computer.
And Anchor will actually distribute your podcast for you. So as soon as you're finished recording, you can be heard on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, and many other platforms.
And you can make money off of your podcast with no minimum listenership.
It's basically a one-stop shop for everything you need. So head on over to Anchor.fm and download the mobile app now. And make sure you come back and geek out with us. All right, that was Shadowrun RPG every Tuesday at 8 o'clock. Featuring Danny as the Game Master and me as Kaida Norel, Nocturna Elf / Mage. Yes,
he's serious.
She's a furry.
Yes.
She's a furry.
I'm a furry. Yeah. But I feel like I'm the dopest part because I'm the one who doesn't know how to play. So I'm the reason we get into trouble everywhere we go because it's my first time playing. They're like, bro, you're not supposed to control people's minds. I'm like, why not? Like, because you have
It's
to
bad form.
They're like, that's not what you do in this world. And I was like, oh, I didn't know that. Okay. So, current events. I want to talk about the Grammys. The Grammys just came out. The Grammy nominations, which I was really excited about. I actually like the Grammys for this reason, because I feel like the Grammys is the one of the award shows where we get a lot of good performances. They do a lot of the awards, like, because the Grammys, the awards the televised awards is like probably like 10% of the awards that they actually award. There's all these awards that they give like that whole week, because it goes into like, if you record anything, like if you do a comedy album, that you can get a Grammy. So I love seeing the performances at the Grammys. However, there was controversy because of Beyonce. So if you don't know, Beyonce got the most nominations this year. She got 9 Grammy nominations out of every artist. Yet she's the only artist that didn't put out an album. And everybody's mad. Everybody's mad.
So the gift isn't considered an album.
The Gift came out when Lion King came out.
Okay, but
The Gift is like 2 or 3 years old.
really,
Yeah.
The
Gift is
time is just passing, and we just.
But
don't see it.
but she didn't get nominated for anything on The Gift. That's the crazy
Oh, that's
part.
true.
She
Oh,
didn't get
you're
nominated
right.
for anything on The Gift. For one, they're nominating music videos now, which I think is really smart.
For Black is King though. Yeah, for Black is King.
Yeah,
though.
she got nominated for Black is King for Best Music Film. She got nominated for
Black Parade. Yeah.
Black Parade, and the other song she got nominated for was the Savage remix. And
So, did she get nominated for Album of the Year?
no,
Well, what's the problem?
Was it like
They're
was it
mad.
Song of the Year?
They're mad. People are mad. They're saying, if it's not, they think it's like a Beyonce hype thing. Oh, just because she's Beyonce, people just give her these things. And go ahead.
My thing is though, like the way that music is put out now, like people put out singles
True.
mostly before they really put out a like collective work, like an actual album. Beyonce's actually talked about this, but like
Yeah.
we're more about putting out singles, and so hey, she's getting nominated for those singles that people keep putting out, and she just happens to be on them. I mean, like I can't fault her for that.
But why do you think? So my question was: is the hate warranted? And if so, or whatever you feel, is it warranted? Yes or no? And then why is it there? Why is it present? Like, why do we care? Like, why can't we just be like, oh yeah, you got a nomination and move on?
Mm-hmm. Personally, for me, I don't think it's warranted. I think it's quite silly. She does the work, and like the singles top the charts. So like I don't see what the hate is. I mean, like what she got snubbed for Lemonade. Well, not for like nomination. She got nominated, but like she got snubbed on some awards for Lemonade, and everyone's excuse for that was like, well, do you know how many instruments Beck plays? I'm like, so.
I think they nominated her just so that she'll be there. I think they're doing the same thing they always do to Jay-Z and Beyonce. If you don't notice, what they do is they nominate them for a whole bunch of awards, make them sit in the front row, and then don't let them win, and they lose every award. Mm-hmm. And it's just because they know that if they're there, people are going to watch it, which is kind of messed up. It's really messed up. I don't think they're going to go this year, though. I don't think anybody's going to go. Go ahead.
So I didn't see the Grammys because I'm a hermit, but I know that, in the longevity of someone's career, like especially like, you talk about, some big name legends and icons, it starts to almost be the number of nominations itself is almost an award in itself, because you have those people who have been around a long time and they have a ton of nominations, and that's almost like its own category. It's like most nominated for this, most nominated for that. She holds the, or they hold the number of most nominations for either the Grammys, the Tonys, the Oscars, or whatever. Even if they don't have the win, it's still that kind of recognition. It gets a nod.
Right. Well, that at this point, after these nominations, she has the most nominations for any artist behind Elton John. I don't remember the guy. It's a guy. I know it's a guy. I know he's a white guy. And I know he's like not young. So Elton John's who's in my head. I'm sorry. Elton John's, because that's who makes the most sense. I was going to say David Bowie, but I don't think it's him. But she has the most Grammy nominations out of a period behind him. And he is at 80 and she's at 79. So if she gets 2 more nominations, she takes it. So
which is going to happen within the next 5 minutes. So that's a given.
If she keeps making music like she does. I mean, so this is my other question. You also see this pushback that's happening in the Grammys right now. You have people being like, I'm not going to the Grammys for all the reasons we talked about. So does getting a Grammy award really carry the same weight? Because I remember last year, I was so excited that Lizzo had so many nominations. She had so many nominations. And she won one category. And it was kind of crazy because my frustration with people in their response to Lizzo, I really like Joe Rogan, but hearing his response to Lizzo really made me dislike him. And I really like him. He was just very, she was talking about body positivity on topic. And she was basically saying, you know, I've always been this size, you know, always been a big girl. I finally got to a place where I don't hate myself. And you know, I'm able to show my body X, Y, Z, and the third. And he was like, you know, no, you're not beautiful. You're not this. You're not that. You're obese. And all these horrible things. He was saying this on his podcast, which kind of threw me. I'm like, how can you not know? How can you not understand how many people that's going to hurt? Even if you think you're doing it for health reasons, like there's plenty of people who are not overweight, but who are heavy and they like are healthy. They make better choices than we might think just by looking at them. So I want to understand, like, are these awards, I know this, I kind of went on a tangent, but are these awards really held to the same standard as they were years ago, like when we were younger, the Grammys specifically?
So I got two things.
Okay.
You asked earlier why people were mad, maybe.
Mm-hmm.
And I think perhaps it's a zero-sum game, you know? If somebody wins the Grammy, nobody else wins the Grammy that year. And I think perhaps DMX said it best when he said, y'all been eating long enough. Now stop being greedy. Just keep it real, partner. Give it to the needy. Ribs is touching. Don't make me wait. Round and I'm going to bite you. Snatch the plate.
I'm so mad. You know all the lyrics, though.
Like, if she's there and, like, every year after year after year after year getting all the things, like, it's just, you know, other people aren't winning. But that said, anyway, that is just joking. You asked, do the Grammys even matter? And in terms of what they show at the Grammys, right? Because it's like you said, they show certain things, right? But there's all these other categories they don't show. In terms of what they show, it don't matter. Beyonce is Beyonce. She wins a Grammy. She doesn't win a Grammy. She's still going to sell albums. She's still going to sell songs. She's still going to make music. She's going to do all those things. All of those people that we're seeing. So where the Grammys really matter is all of the music industry. Like, we think of the music industry, we think of pop stars and the people that are out there making it, but we don't think about all the people behind the scenes. We don't think about composers. We don't think about songwriters. We don't think about jazz musicians if you're not into jazz. We don't think about, you know, folk music if you're not into that. And so it's really important for them, for all the people behind the scenes, because it's that little tag you put on the end of your name, Grammy, you know, nominated, Grammy awarded, that says, to me, if I don't know who, you know, the latest bluegrass stars are and I'm maybe going to think about checking it out, if I see Grammy nominated, that's a validation of whoever that is, that I'm going to see what's good in this genre, right?
Right.
And it helps people get jobs, helps people get, you know,
and ask for pay.
Right. For, like, if you want to be a composer for, like, a show or, you know, commercials or all these other things that we use music for that isn't just pop music, you know?
And I also think the thing is with how we consume media and music now, it's very, I think a lot of fans are used to that whole, like, that Teen Choice Awards type thing where, like, if you're a big stand for this person, like, I really like this music and I streamed all of this for, like, several hours, like, they deserve to win. Where it's like the Grammys is completely different type of atmosphere where, like the Academies, you have industry people thinking about this and voting on this. Also, to answer your question, the other person who has the most Grammy nominations of all time would be Frank Sinatra.
Frank Sinatra, okay.
Frank Sinatra.
I told you it was a white dude that was old. I didn't, you know.
Mr. Bourgeois.
So
Right.
very young, very young. Yes, not old. I think it's.
I said not old. Yes,
right.
yeah.
Okay.
But I think
Right.
it's interesting that you. Damn it. I think it's interesting that you say that because they often snub her. Very often does she get snubbed. She sits in that front row, and but this is my thing about it. Maybe even though we say, "Oh, the Grammys don't matter," but you just hit that nail on the head, Rakia. It's industry people. It's your peers.
Yeah.
So even if the Grammys don't matter, they do because it's your peers. I mean, it's when you really think about it, your fans are very important. They consume your content, they buy your albums, they keep you relevant, they put you in the spotlight. But your peers are going to determine who will work with you, what kind of songs you're going to get written, who's going to be your producer, who can choreograph your videos. So in my opinion, it's a double-edged sword because when you are in a situation like that, you don't want to get stuck on the awards because you don't want to feel like you're not good enough if you don't get that recognition. But at the same time, I get it. So it's just interesting because I've been seeing a lot of back and forth about whether people are going to go to the Grammys and whether they're not going to go to the Grammys, especially with COVID. But the AMAs was kind of like, the AMAs actually had a live audience. They were very spread out, but it had one. Kim, do you have any comments about Beyonce and the Grammys, or if the Grammys matter anymore?
Oh, I think they matter. I'm not sure if they mean as much because there are actually so many different awards given out across the board. And you see it in film and you see it in the music industry, that the different types of awards that are now available for people to win, there's more of them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think the validity comes in, yes, it's actually for the people that aren't necessarily in the limelight, that the Grammys are just as important as they were before. And it's unfortunate that we don't actually get to see them during the awards show because it's about popularity. It's about what's hot right now. So that's what we see.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, that's what I think.
Okay. All right. Go ahead, Rakia.
And I also just keep in mind, like I was saying earlier, like it's like the way the Grammys work is, and like you mentioned earlier, just it's not just the singers, the performers, the rappers, like it's everyone else behind them, and not even the parts of music that aren't considered mainstream anymore. Like we have a friend who was in
You talking about Kim?
Yes, so she was on the latest Met Opera's
Porgy and Bess.
Protection of Porgy and Bess. They're Grammy nominated, but like you're not going to hear as much about those nominations as opposed to those like Beyonce, Nicki Minaj wasn't nominated for anything, was she?
I don't think she put anything out this year, really.
Well, neither did you. No, I'm just kidding.
She did.
No, I'm just kidding. I know.
Right.
She's put out some music, but I don't think it's caught attention. But like, even I'm talking about like anybody, like mainstream music. It's like the Grammys is just a whole nother ball field.
Okay. So we're gonna move to our next topic. Our next topic we're gonna talk about is let's talk about Trump. So, no, I think it's kind of good news. I know it's kind of good news though, because he finally had an interview with. They say he took his first interview since losing the election, and he admitted that it would be very hard for him to concede to what's his name, Joe Biden. I didn't get to read the whole article, but what I want to talk about is him pardoning Michael Flynn. It bothers me so much that he did that, and nobody, like all the Republicans out there who are talking about like how awesome this man is and how like above reproach he is. I'm like, bro, do y'all not see what he's doing? Like he really is saying, okay, we did some dirt together, and I'm gonna make sure you don't get. Everybody sees it. We all know what that is, but y'all can't call that spade a spade. I wish there was a Trump supporter here on the show right now. This is why we need conservatives. We need conservatives to actually have this dialogue. But I want to open up the floor to anybody who wants to say anything about that situation.
That means you got to start promoting on Parler for that to happen now.
That means I have to be on Parler.
Yeah, you got to be on Parler, huh?
No,
I can't do it. We need to hire a liaison, a Parler liaison to do that for us.
I do want to say one thing.
Go ahead.
real quick. It's not answering your question, but just not all conservatives are Trump fans. Like Trump fans are like they're this thing that's over here, right?
Mhm.
And it's. I mean,
What's the
conservatives have
word?
been going
Trumpican?
more right
Trumpet.
all these years, but like actual, like they're not the same people.
I disagree and I agree.
So
Go ahead.
okay, I'm like bracing myself
I
because
see.
I am just
I
raging
see.
over here. Okay, so yes, to your point, Danny. To your point, Danny. I've had to like select. Okay, thoughts. Okay.
Look, he's stammering. He doesn't know how to get his thoughts out.
Okay, so ever since the election was called, I've gone through like a political detox because I was so wrapped up in it for such a long time. I'm a naturally just political person, so I'm always tapped in. It's like an IV. Like So when we start hearing these things come out of like his bunker since the election was called, because he's been very radio silent.
Yes.
We
Of course.
like he starts playing the natural game of, oh well, of course I didn't lose. I'm known for winning. I win. I didn't lose. What do you mean? What do you mean? Like no. And all of
Right.
his like your heads are going through the legal channels. Rudy Giuliani is making an absolute fool of himself, and it's very true. And I will say that, to Danny's point, the conservative middle ground is highly embarrassed of what Trump
Right.
is, what Trump stands for, and where Trump has driven the GOP over the last 4 or 5 years. Because we've kind of touched on this before in previous episodes, but it's like you have to think of Trump not as a product of what the GOP has become. He's a symptom of a greater issue in the political spectrum that has thus delivered that type of candidate to the GOP that was already like, the left and the right were already getting divided, from the moment that Obama was elected. Honestly, the left was very happy about it, and then the right was just kept getting more and more mad for 8 years. For 8 years, they were just
what sucks?
he wore
Sorry,
a tan
keep
suit
going.
and just ridiculous amounts of like, you have to just call it. You just have to call it, just ridiculous attacks on Obama. But that was just feeding the machine. That was feeding the machine. And so then we had Trump. But I think that the election basically showed us that you have a lot of people, both on the left and right, that were anti-Trump. Whether that meant that they were voting, that they could split their ticket and vote Biden at the top and then shift gears to all Republican down the rest of the ticket if they were a moderate conservative. Or even a moderate Democrat, if you agree with some of the more conservative Republican labeled options on your ballot, and you have the option to split your ticket like that, then I think it's very appealing to some people who see this very divisive political landscape and want to remedy that by saying, I'm not going to give in to the crazies on the left or the right. So I'm going to really make the responsible choice as the responsible voter.
What's the responsible choice? To just pick the better
in their mind.
Okay.
If their true values are more middle ground, they see some value to conservative policies. They see some value in progressive policy, and they are more of that moderate voter. Mm-hmm. Then you'll start to see things like that happen. And I think because we had record turnout this election, historic record turnout, it shows you that there are more people like that than we think. And the pollsters have just been playing this guessing game, and they didn't get it right in 2016. They got some things right, but not everything right. And you really have to think that after this election here in 2020, those pollsters are starting to understand a little bit more about what the real electorate is once we get the people to the polls. I didn't say anything about Michael Flynn because I think that's ridiculous and absolutely corrupt. Nobody called him out on it. But
Right.
yes.
I feel like there should be something about him not being able to pardon a man who was charged with something connected to him.
Well, he pled guilty. He pled guilty to at least 2 counts of lying to the FBI. He's going through the process right now of withdrawing that. He wanted to withdraw that. The judge has to sign off on that.
The judge has to allow because the judge accepted the guilty plea. Like when you plead guilty, the judge can not accept your guilty plea. But so the judge then accepted it. So now you have to make the judge look like an ass. Because the judge has to go back on it, and judges are probably not going to want to do that.
Correct. And so at this moment, I haven't tapped in for the last couple of days, because I'm a hermit right now. But that's the current stance, and that's the current, it's just a natural Trumpian move. He's gotten so many free passes on the kind of actions that he takes that the Republicans can't call him out because they are too fearful of his face. He is going to be a figurehead, even if he's not in office, for many years to come. And you can't deny that fact that his base is mobilized, his base is vocal, and his base is insanely loyal to him.
But see, my issue is
dangerous for the
that's my issue, Justin, is I look at it like this. I feel like everything you said is true, but I don't believe that the Trump supporters are like all the way over there. Just there were like 70 people still voted for him. 70 people. I wish. 70 million people. 70 million people. Was it 70 million? And yeah, it was like around 70 million people still.
Something like 70 million people.
After all of that nonsense, still thought that he was a better candidate than Biden. With Biden's screw ups and everything, like to me, the choice came down to empathy. Period. It came down to empathy.
And in my opinion, I think that when you've become so numb to how Trump acts, you assume that, if he was really doing, like, this is the mind of a Trump supporter, right? Like, if these things were really, really bad, and if these things were really, as bad as the left say they are, then he wouldn't be allowed to do them. But he's being allowed to do them. And other Republicans in positions of power are enabling him on his bandwagon. And even if they don't support him support that action publicly that Trump does, it's more internalized. And so they'll pivot to something else, and they'll say, well, I think that what the real issue here is, and they'll just sidestep it, and they'll support, else that Trump do agree with. And you have to be very wary of that, especially because, it's only been within the past, 6-9 months that I hate the word mainstream media, but it's true. Like the mainstream media has just stopped with the shenanigans of trying to report Trump equally and fairly, because he doesn't deserve that. In all honesty, he does not deserve that, because he is a pathological narcissistic liar. And if you don't stop and say, this is not true, this is not correct, this is false, this is slander, this is you have to actually put it in context. You can't report it with that amount of equivalency, because that's where a lot of the details get lost. If you and you've probably seen it on CNN, MSNBC, even Fox, sometimes they'll have a whole panel of people. It'll be, professor this person, doctor that person, senior director of this whatever agency, and then cut to the Trump support. And unfortunately, some of the conservatives are like cuckoo number 1, crazy person number 2, and it's like, what? And you're putting them on the same level, and they're trying person A has one point of view, person B has another point of view, but there shouldn't be level like that. If
Fox News doesn't really mess with Trump no more, if y'all haven't noticed.
Oh, well,
Fox News after this, at first, the first night of the election, Fox was still trying to rock with him. But then after, I think it was Arizona or one of them states, they was like, no, Biden. Once they came out and said Biden was the president-elect, I literally was sitting in my living room
they were calling some of those states before the other news sources, which is kind of oh, well.
Yeah.
Look,
That
when I
was
saw
interesting,
that,
actually. That was interesting to see them do that before the Associated Press, because even
because they don't
even
usually do stuff like that.
well, right, well,
Well, when they were
they're
calling those states in Biden's favor like that before those other news sources, that's where it's kind of like, oh,
Well, to
well,
me, I feel like there's this thing that's supposed to happen about truth, right? Like I'm not a journalist, but I would assume, like what I hear, the motive behind a lot of people who become journalists is to report the truth. I want the people to know what's real. I don't want the people to hide things from, and so when I saw that in that moment and I saw all these news stations reporting the same stuff, it was just kind of like, it's nice to like feel that, even though only for once as a person, I felt like everybody was telling me the truth. It could have been a lie, but I mean, I know there's a lot of people who felt like they were all being lied to. But to me, I was like, if Fox is telling you, like, bro, like, because I think at some point democracy has to win for a lot of people. It's like, look, if we're going to support a democracy, then we can't let a man come in here and literally just bulldoze it.
Well, that's a lot of what journalism would like to get to, but unfortunately, some and this is kind of the crux of the issue, that a lot of journalists, they're looking at reporting the truth, yes, but the truth is the accuracy of what was said by party A and the accuracy of what was said by party B, whether that is paraphrasing or whether that is an exact quote, and then saying, okay, reader, this is what was said, giving a little bit of context in that, and then letting them decide what's real and what's not real, and what they think about that discussion. And I think not enough of that was put into context. It was more about reporting, because it's all about instant information, instant gratification, what's on trend, what is the buzzword. And even though we have the 24-hour news cycle, it's amazing to see that much that level of coverage, but not that depth of context in a lot of these situations. And it's only been within the past like 6 to 9 months where we really start to see a lot of these networks just shut it down. Like they're not giving the mic to the inflammatory figureheads of the Trump campaign or the Trump administration, because they know that, I mean, it's been a big conversation about misinformation and disinformation in that mainstream platform, and you start to really see them being held accountable by not only their viewership but also the executives at those networks, because they see people leaving, and there's the greater discussion about social media and how that's coming into the conversation. But yeah, it's very complicated and it's very interesting.
Danny, did you want to hop in?
Trump, it's the Michael Flynn. I mean, there's just a level of, and I mean that comment that just came up. I mean, it's just this level of exhaustion. And when, even with Trump not conceding, just knowing that Biden won and that this stuff is going to happen, like there's this release. And so kind of don't want to really go back to putting those weights, on my chest. And so like Michael Flynn, like it sucks, but it's just more of the BS that's going to happen for the next 2 months while he just like does his toddler thing, right?
Yeah.
To Justin's point about like the way people pivot or they just don't, it blows my mind to me. Like I was recently watching the Candace Owens interview with the British reporter, and that interview is that interview. It's Candace Owens,
Wait, which Candace Owens thing? With the Harry Flint? I mean, not Harry Flint. Harry Styles?
No.
Oh God. Okay, you'll tell me about it later.
This was her being in an interview with the British reporter. Anyway, she says her BS, and he's calling her like with facts, because that's just he doesn't care. He's British. He doesn't give a
Right.
damn
Right.
about, like, you know, he's not
Right.
like biased towards anyone. He's just saying like, well, you said this, but this, and this seem to indicate that you're full of shit, you know? And she would just kind of like, you know, turn, well, they didn't do this, and that was just that place. And then, but everything she brings up, he's just like, okay, well, never mind that then. But this thing that you just brought up, this, and this means you're full of shit. And he just kept going over and over, and she would just do her little wordsmithing bullshit that she does. And the thing that gets me is you look in the comments, and it's full of people who are just like, yeah, she owned this interview.
Right.
She
I
owned
hate
him. And it's not. And
it's like, what interview are you watching?
The rhetoric aside, like, how do you draw that conclusion? How do you watch this and not see someone go, look, this thing happened, and then someone says, no, that's wrong. Here's the proof that it's wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And then you don't refute any of that proof, but people still think that you got the truth, you know, like you got it. And that is just, that's what we're dealing with in America, you know, like that's what we're dealing with. And it's this cognitive dissonance. It's this thing where like, I am so invested in Trump and everything about Trump, and I am not a bad bitch, not because I'm a bad person, that they just refuse to see that there is anything bad, right? They just refuse to see it. They have to be right. And that's really dangerous. And I don't know what to do about it.
Before I ask, Kim, you don't want to talk about this, do you?
I had a 3-hour conversation with my extremely Republican aunt and uncle.
Oh, how'd that go?
It was draining.
That sounds about right.
And they support Trump, and some of the arguments or, you know, things that he has done that's so wonderful. You know, my aunt brought up the 40 some odd executive orders that he did to improve the country, and why was the media, you know, talking about that? For me, they're like parrots. They're repeating everything they hear and not actually critically thinking about what it is that they're hearing. And for me, Trump is a smoke and mirrors man. He will do something over here to draw attention and then pull this Michael Flynn pardon on the side. So he's done it throughout the whole 4 years. He's done it his whole career as a CEO, and he's running this country, or he has tried to run this country as if he was a CEO. He was in charge of everything that he does, and he doesn't play with anyone else. It's his word or the highway. And we've seen that in like the revolving door within his cabinet and within the White House, because he can't keep anybody long enough, because he fires them because they either say something he doesn't like or they do something he doesn't like.
Right.
So, you know, in that regards, changing anyone's mind who follows him, it's going to be futile. It's not going to happen. The only way it's going to happen is if actual conservative Republicans side with Biden and actually have conversations and do something together. Like for me, that's the only way.
Yeah, I agree.
Who have been seriously brainwashed, because for me, that's what I'm seeing is severe brainwashing. And it's sad because they're not stupid people. Like I would say probably out of the 70 million, that a good portion of them are educated people. They're just so conservative, and they are so frightened. Like that was what I heard from my aunt and uncle, was the fear of the liberals taking over, the progressives taking over. And it was like, I don't want to take over the world. I just still here in 10 years.
That's the crazy thing about talking to conservatives about liberals. Like when I talk to conservatives, Republicans about liberals, they make us feel like they describe us as if we want to take over the world and force our way of lives on other people, when as a liberal, it feels exactly the opposite. It's like, it feels exactly the opposite. It's like, well, I don't know any Democrat or liberal judge, politician. I'm sure they're out there, but I don't know of any of them who are actively trying to take rights away from people. I don't know of them. Right. And so, like, when you talk about enforcing your lifestyles, it's like certain people just want to be able to live their lives. Certain people want other people not to live the lives they want to live. So that fear is very true. And it's dangerous when people are operating on fear because they make irrational decisions, like supporting a man who, because I think what Trump has done is he has hit one issue with a lot of people that's really important. What I mean is, like, for this one person, they really are all for the money. So as long as he's making us money, I can ignore everything else that he does. And I think every person who supports him has at least one thing that's just really important, that they're like, finally, there's a guy who's talking about that, so I'm going to support him. Like this whole wall thing, that's how we got it, because there's a lot of people who don't want immigrants here. So as soon as he talked about that, which that was literally what he ran on, and that came nowhere near happening. Everyone knew it wasn't going to happen. So I just think it's dangerous when people aren't thinking critically. But I think that Biden and Kamala Harris, and I'm always the type of person to say, like, look, we have to put pressure on the people who get elected. It can't just be like, oh, Biden was elected, so all right, we're done. No, we have to make sure that he follows through on his word. He said the night of the election, when he got up on that stage, he said he was going to try to run a campaign and be America's president. Trump said the same thing. Now, that's what America needs. I'm not a conservative, but I understand that conservatives are people that voted for Trump, despite how I may personally feel about that. They're still people, and they have families, they have jobs, they have things that are important to them. Biden or whoever's in that chair needs to, and not even just Biden, the Senate, because just because you're a Republican Senate doesn't mean you don't have Democratic constituents. They need to be thinking about who they're serving and trying to do what's best for them. If Biden really found a way to make it very open and vocal that he was going to do things for both and actually follow through with that, he'd have no problems getting a second term, in my opinion. I don't think most liberals are going to fault him, especially if he chose wisely the things that he did decide to support on both ends. We had a panelist on this show who said the most brilliant thing I've ever said. He's like, there's certain stuff that we all agree on. So, but the problem is, like, a new president gets in, the first thing he goes towards is the thing we disagree on. He meets resistance, nothing gets done. Why don't we start working on the stuff that we know we agree on first? All right. We know everybody wants punch. Everybody wants punch. Everybody wants punch. We're going to get the punch first, instead of being like, well, are we going to get chicken or turkey? Well, I don't like then you don't get anything, you know? Go ahead, Justin.
Well, I think that's where some of those identity politics come into play. Is that there is one or two issues that really resonate with someone strongly, and over the decades, those things have been, like, dealt with and care of and whatever. So now, like, the moderate policies that have been institutionalized by the passing of laws and amendments to the Constitution and things like that, those more traditional ideas that were sometimes divisive have become a way of life. And now we're moving on to finer points of those ideas. So it used to be, it used to be civil rights. Now we're looking at the finer points of civil rights and exactly what that means when it comes to systemic racism, and, really drilling it down into, okay, well, we took the first step to alleviating that issue. Everybody doesn't, if everybody is not racist, then let's get this law passed and let's make sure that we're taken care of. But the conservative side usually sees it as, oh, well, they're snowflakes and they're just complaining and they want a free handout and they want extra and they want more than we do. No, not necessarily. They just want the full equality and the full equity that they deserve and that they, should have in the first place. But our Constitution wasn't written with equality in mind. Our Bill of Rights, our amendments have been a very slow crawl to getting us to that place. But I think that's some of the struggle, is the conservative side seeing that, oh, well, it's the land of the free and the home of the brave, and everybody's welcome. Everybody has the same shot. And it's like,
It's in that song.
actually, you've been living in a bubble, so you don't understand the trials and tribulations of someone who's not like you. And I think that we've lost, especially in the education system, we've been gradually losing that mechanism of critical thinking and that logic over lust type of mentality that really brings that education to the front and center of, okay, now the politicians these days, they're playing on emotions and they're playing into those more abstract ideas rather than nuts and bolts. We're going to do this and we're going to do that and we're going to do this other thing, and it's going to be so good for so many people. They've started to work on the fringes, and that's what's pulling people in the opposite directions of those very divisive issues. And you'll start to see the way people vote. There's several studies on this, and the electorate is shifting. It's polarizing because politics has been delivered in this way over the past couple of decades compared to in the past before that. It was mainly about just coming together. We went through several wars, before I was born. And then there's been nothing to really unify the nation until the pandemic, honestly. But
yeah,
unfortunately,
since for 9/11. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. So 9/11, but that was a more, I mean, there was no singular country. There was no singular enemy for us to rally around and get behind. It was just it was USA. It was right. USA, let's come together. You have a few natural disasters here and there, but when you really start to think about a unifying force, you're not going to find that in politics. And if you do, it's not going to be there for long, because there's going to be somebody who's going to want to make a power grab. So they're going to step away from the unity message and they're going to step into their own lane to say, I think I could drive this car better, and here's why. Get in my car and we'll go that way. You know what I mean?
Yeah. I always wonder, like, the idea of the critical thinking education. Like, I feel like that's really more of a recent trend, because just coming from as a teacher, and just the pushback that education gets from, not necessarily from the locals, I guess you could say, just about how things are taught, and like the idea of like American exceptionalism and all this stuff. Like, is critical thinking, like, is it? I feel like it's more of a new thing in our country, and because we are starting to want to build more of that now, you're going to have students think, or at least try to start thinking differently with how they see the world. And like, I think of like the pushback of like, like when we were kids, we weren't taught this, and just think of like all the different issues that all the different things we've learned about as children, and how different the world sees them now, like Christopher Columbus,
yes,
Thanksgiving now,
goodness.
Like,
yeah,
Pilgrims, just things like that. Just even like with Black History Month coming up in a couple months, like how we view Martin Luther King and how he's very like whitewashed and watered down, and like
no, not him. What
not
people
him.
have done to him.
Yes. His legacy, his image.
Yeah, because
like,
they It's crazy how people will weaponize Martin Luther King's life against Black people. I am dumbfounded by that shit.
Look. People will try to tell Bernice King, his own daughter, on Twitter, what her father meant in some of his statements, and
that's not hypothetical. It happened.
It really happened.
It happened.
What?
It happened. That's not hypothetical.
No, like legit, like it happens. Like your father would be ashamed of this. Like, and she's like, you obviously have never actually like read my father's works. Like you're looking at that textbook from Texas right now. Like you're not actually
right. And it had to be. It's crazy. Go ahead, Danny.
So the thing is if you're hitting something pretty right on the head there. It's so critical thinking, philosophy, arts, etc. In the United States, there has not been a lot of attention put in that direction. And the reason being is because capitalism. Yay! We want everyone to be a good little worker drone. That's what we need. So we need you to sit in your little rows, put your head in your little books, learn what we're telling you, take that in as the truth. And then when you're done, you're going to go to work somewhere in neat little rows with your head in your work, and you're going to do the things. And then everyone at the top's going to make all this money, and we're going to tell you it's going to trickle down to you. Coming soon. And that's kind of what's been going on. And so people don't have a basis of knowledge. You see, like any sort of critical thinking that I got in school was part of the talented and gifted whatever, right? They would be like, oh, and really like it was all just kind of like this pointless stuff that didn't really prepare you for anything beyond just being that worker drone. So art programs get gutted. All you see it in all the schools. There's no art programs. So that's the first thing that gets tossed out. We don't have arts and critical thinking and thought trade schools, right? But we'll have trade schools for mechanics and stuff like that for teenagers. Like that, as opposed to going to like just the regular normal public education. They'll go and learn to be a mechanic or something. And yes, we need all those things. What we're finding though now is, when you keep the population a certain way, no one has time to think about that. It's all hierarchy of needs stuff, right? So I got to grind. Like, I don't have time to think about like, well, is there a way for me to is there a better way? Is there time for me to think about these things? Can I paint some paintings? Right? No, I ain't got time for that. And so they just go. But as technology starts to get better, as people go into work and there's automation, and now like they're in their rows, but maybe if they're efficient and they figure out a way to be efficient, they don't actually have as much work to do. And now they have a little bit of time to look at something. And then the pandemic hits, and now
get all the time.
30% of the people who aren't like just worried about starving and eviction completely because of this. But those people, they're now able to think about things. They're now able to kind of say, well, wait a minute, what's going on here? What is all this stuff? And we have nothing but time to think. And that's why like everyone's like, oh, the protests, all these, what they don't got better things to do? No, they don't got better things to do.
because it's really important. I think like I'm one of the people, and I'm an optimist in this way, where I feel like everything that's happened this year has been such a massive blessing in certain ways. Definitely not with the death, and definitely not with the violence, but with the awakening and the awareness that we have at the kind of the state our country is in. But also, I think we also are finally aware that we can fix it, if that makes any sense. I feel like we see the problem, and because we actually see the problem, all these solutions start popping up. We just need to say something in this instance. We need to make sure that I'm standing up for, as a man, as an ally to women, I need to be able to say this, and it is my place to say something to a man who, you know what I'm saying? These are the things we're learning. And then we're also learning that no matter how much of an ally I am to a woman, I still have biases as a man. So to check my own biases, these are just things that are starting to happen, conversations that are starting to happen that I've literally never heard before. It's interesting. I was just thinking about this when Danny was talking. All of us on this panel, which I didn't realize all have arts backgrounds. So we're taught to think critically just by analyzing our art. Like, as an actor, I know specifically all I do is think about why people do things, period, all the time. Every time somebody does something, whether it's on TV or in person, I'm like, I wonder why they did that. And then I'll pick it apart. You know what I'm saying? And because of that, it develops lots of empathy, but it also develops an awareness to, if I'm empathetic, if it's an empathetic situation. Otherwise, but I'm also aware if it's like, oh, I need to stay away from that guy. You know what I'm saying? So it's crazy that you hear all this stuff growing up about the arts being taken out of the schools. It really is important, even more important than I realized, because art teaches critical thinking in a way that also teaches you emotion. It's not just about analytical critical thinking. It's about emotionally critical thinking, which develops empathy, which I think is really what's missing in the American equation. Not 100%. But definitely for the people that are having a hard time understanding why liberals want the things that they want and do the things they do, I think it's a lack of empathy. I think there's certain people who have money and they give money to charities, right? They're cool with giving money to this faceless who that's going to get it. You know what I'm saying? They can say, yes, I did that, my good deed for the year. But are you going out to, when you actually see someone and doing it, are you getting in their faces? Are you in the middle of, are you like knee deep in someone else's bullshit just because they need you? Yeah. And that's a different thing, you know, because then you're at risk. Are you willing to like risk your, and some people are, absolutely. Like there's Dolly Parton, but there's people out there who absolutely are ready to jump in the fire with you. But I think we need more of that, because if everyone's eating, everyone's eating. We don't have to be worried about who's eating more or less. Everyone's fed. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Does anyone want to say anything about that? Because I have one more thing I want to talk about before we move to our main topic. No. Oh, you did? Okay. All right. Last thing. So the Chappelle Show. Yes. So I never watched the Chappelle Show because I'm not a fan of his comedy. I love Half Baked though. I'm just not a fan of his comedy. Love him as a person, as a comedian. I mean, he's a very talented man. It just didn't hit my funny bone, you know? So I wasn't a huge fan of the show. I did like the Rick James skits, and I definitely liked the whole like Black Klansman thing. That was so funny to me. But apparently Netflix and another company HBO had been sold the rights to his show from Comedy Central. He basically got online and told his fans, if y'all love me, if y'all love my work, don't watch the Dave Chappelle Show. Like, boycott my stuff. And then, you know, why? Because apparently he signed a very bad contract when he was 28. He said, I was 28, I was broke, and I had a baby on the way. I signed a contract that basically said that I had to work for them. I didn't have any rights to my work, but they could get paid off of it later. So they're getting paid off of it. Yes. So then he went to talk to Netflix. It was like, hey, I don't want you to air my stuff. Netflix actually took it down after they had made this deal with. When I tell you, we literally had a whole conversation about how much I love Netflix on Geeking Out this week. And this just makes me love them even freaking more. Like, it was like, I'm sure they paid some money to get his content on their, but then Dave Chappelle just goes and be like, hey, can you take that down because of this situation? And he admitted, he's like, legally, they have every right to have my work there. But they definitely knew that they were like finagling this young guy who, you know, was kind of asked out. So I kind of want to know how we feel about that. Like, are you surprised that Netflix, because it surprised me, are you surprised that Netflix sided with Dave Chappelle instead of just doing the big business move? And how do you feel about this happening? Because this is a thing we see often with these young artists, whether they are actors not doing the right deals for syndication, whether it is a singer, like what happened to TLC. How do you feel about these people being taken advantage of in this way?
So the first thing I kind of want to say that this points out is that corporations can kind of follow the zeitgeist of the society. They can do good things. They can be model corporations and still make a fuck ton of money. Okay. Like and you see that, you know, like Nike decides to put Kaepernick on their ad campaign. And of course they're, boycott Nike shoes, boycott Nike, boycott. But you know what? Nike don't care. Nike's like, nah, actually at the end of the day, this is making us the money.
Right.
So,
right.
With this, Netflix is kind of got the same thing. They are the premier streaming service for all intents and purposes, really, at the end of the day. And enough to where they're bankrolling their own industry, their own film industry, their own show industry, you know, like they're doing that. And so they could take that L, because what's going to happen is, so Chappelle he's already got a relationship with them, right? So that's part of it too, right?
Yeah.
So he's got like all his specials that are on Netflix and everything. They're paying him good and everything. So when you're Netflix, you got this issue. It's a non-issue to them. So first of all, what do I lose if I could have had the Chappelle Show and people would have watched it, but at the same time, like, we got this deal with Dave Chappelle's new content. So people have to come here to watch the new content. why would we piss him off to have his old content that he doesn't want us to have when really people are going to be going all over the place to see it, because they could see it over at HBO, they could see it at CBS or whatever. There's other outlets that you can watch the Chappelle Show on. YouTube, actually.
Right.
So, all the individual skits. So why would they fight that? But they're just like, you know what? We're good.
I like that.
And not to dilute the goodness of that action, the propriety of the action. But at the end of the day, it just goes to show corporations don't have to be shitty. And they can make money. It's that can be a economic model. So yeah.
Kim, I saw you were kind of gonna maybe look like you were about to say something.
Oh, no, I just had to cough.
Oh. Does anyone else have a comment to that one?
I mean, yeah, either way, they're still going to make money off of him. Thanks, Netflix, for being kind. Cool.
Right.
I mean, good for them on that. I wonder if they will offer that same treatment to all of those comedians or stars that they have they allow content be on there.
Are you talking about? I think I know what you're leaning toward. Is this like kind of going about Monique?
Yeah.
So I want to comment on that. I feel like now as a Black person, I don't like people labeling Black people as difficult just because it seems like that's the freaking, oh, she's a diva, angry Black man. But however, when it comes to Monique, I think the issue isn't just that she's extremely vocal about her anger towards it. It's like you're going to the news outlets and you're being very negative. And so it then becomes, so now if I am to work with you, I have to then explain to everybody why. I can't just work with you, because people are going to be like, well, why did you do that? Why did you? And it's going to be another conversation. It's Dave Chappelle said he talked to Netflix. Right. He didn't talk to the outlets first. I think it's also this, like, I wasn't there. I don't know what happened, but with her, I feel like if she didn't like what they were offering her, it's a contract offer. And I'm so surprised she won that lawsuit, by the way. I'm so surprised she won that lawsuit.
I don't know. I feel like
I'm just surprised because how can you win an employment lawsuit when you weren't employed there? They were offering you a job. No. It's like, I get it. I just don't get it. It's a job offer. So how can you sue them for employment discrimination? I don't know.
I think it was the underestimation of her worth as a comedian who's been in the business for a good bit of time, as opposed to some of the other comedians that they were offering contracts to, and who haven't been in it as long and were making way more than her.
But let's be clear. Okay, so it's like, all right, if you take Ariana Grande, right? I like Monique, but Monique is not like Eddie Murphy. She doesn't have like an Eddie Murphy career. She doesn't have Eddie Murphy career, right? So like Eddie Murphy to me, I'm not going to say because I'm going to make the comparison, but Ariana Grande to Mariah Carey is like Mariah Carey would be like Eddie Murphy status. So I'm trying to think of somebody who would be like a singer that's got like a big name. Ashanti.
Okay.
Ashanti when she was out. Ashanti when she was like out, she was popping. Her asking price was a lot higher than it would be today. Even though she's still Ashanti, she has all those hits, she wrote all that stuff, she sings. Her asking price is not today what it is tomorrow. And Ariana Grande, who has a much shorter career than hers, can ask for way more money than her, right? Okay. Monique was comparing herself to Amy Schumer, who right now is very popping. Monique, as far as her stand-up, I don't know a lot of white people that even know her stand-up, to be honest. I'll be honest. I mean, I know her stand-up from Queens of Comedy, but I don't know. Has anyone on the panel that's not Black ever seen a stand-up special about Monique?
Not just specifically Monique.
And I'm not saying that she's not. She's, to me, one of the funniest stand-up comedians that I've ever watched. But she's not as well known. She doesn't have as big of a following as somebody like Amy Schumer. She's not current. So I feel like you have to also take those things into consideration too. You know what I'm saying? You can't just say, oh, I'm a funny comedian. I've been doing this for 20 years. Give me the money. It's like, okay, but is there a demand for you?
Well,
But
I think another thing to consider though is, and this is kind of like if you followed the suit at all, to see like what the nuances were, right? So this wasn't just like she said, hey, I don't think y'all are paying me enough what I'm worth.
Mhm.
And they went, okay, well, bye. You know, that's not how it happened, right?
Right.
So according to her is like what she said was that she felt that the initial offer was discriminatory. Like that's how she said it. Like
Okay.
that's how it was presented to Netflix. So it wasn't like, hey, Netflix, this offer you gave me, I feel like it's kind of low. You know, can we go a little higher? You know, and then Netflix could be like, you know, and they could, but not. She was like, what, 500,000? It's because I'm black, huh? You know, like that is like the way that sort of message kind of came out. Like it was a discriminatory offer. That was what that was how she framed it.
Right,
So then,
right.
So then Netflix, whether they did the right thing or not, they didn't do the right thing.
Uh-huh.
But so normally what would happen is you always get the low ball offer. Like normally
At
what they would
first,
do is
right.
they would negotiate and it would go up. But as soon as she said that, they just were like, nah, we're cutting.
We don't want to do it.
And so this is where you talk about the difficult, you know, black woman kind of thing,
Uh-huh.
where that's how it can look. It can look like, oh, that's just they're doubling down on their discrimination. But the other way to look at it from a business standpoint is actually, you know, like if I'm
was a
trying to
turn
deal
off.
with you, if I'm trying to deal with you in whether you think it's good faith or not, the first thing that happens is you just come out the gate swinging.
Mm-hmm.
I don't want to be in the ring with you, you know,
Yeah.
So
Which sucks because I understand it. Like it is it's an energy thing. I don't see from the way she behaves in the industry, and I'm not just talking about like because they say she was blackballed or whatever. I don't know if that's true. I've seen her on other interviews with other people, and it just comes off like that she feels like that's her energy a lot. Is that energy? So I'm not sure what it is. I hope that. Because I think she's literally incredibly talented. I would love to see her in an atmosphere where she is doing great things again. I do think that's going to take a little humility, though. Just because that's what's required of all of us to work in, especially to work in the arts. You can't be an artist unless you're doing all one-woman shows and you're doing your own tech and you're doing your own sound. Like, it sounds impossible. I'm sure somebody out there who can have like a soundboard and a light board on stage and run the whole show. But unless you're doing that every performance, you're going to have a very hard time doing that industry. So I just hope I hope the best for her, and I hope she gets the humility that comes along with it. And I hope nothing but high praises and all that positivity toward her. Okay. We are going to go into our next commercial break. And when we come back, we're going to be talking about body positivity and the effects that it has on plastic surgery and those who may become addicted to the knife.
We are counting down the days to closing out the beautiful Frasier. And one of the things that I really love about our projects, because we named them, we built character, they're almost like your little baby, and you're ready to present it to the world. And one of the things where you look at the little details, and then we start to nitpick, and then before you know it, a few weeks turns into a few months, and before you know it, your project is prolonged more than you thought, just for the little details. But one of the things you have to do is just breathe, relax, and trust the process. Know that you're exactly where you're supposed to be. You're doing exactly what you're supposed to do. And as long as you stay in committed action each day, you will ultimately get to completion. These things and more, we help investors get their start in real estate investing. So contact us, visit us at it'sjessicamyers.com to learn how you can get your start today.
Be on the lookout for these upcoming projects from the Springer. Just in time for the holidays, it's the Winter Wonderettes, playing December 10th through the 20th, and a premium screening of Home Alone, playing 3 showings on Saturday, December 5th. Head on over to SpringerOperaHouse.org now to get your tickets. And while you're there, check out information about Giving Tuesday and see how you can support your local theater with a donation of any size. Yes, that was itsjessicamyers.com for real estate investment tips and how to get your start in real estate investing. You should visit itsjessicamyers.com. Is it M-Y-E-R-S? Ooh, I said it wrong, didn't I? M-Y-E-R-S. I said it right. And the other commercial was from the Springer Opera House, which is showing Winter Wonderettes, which opens on December 10th and runs through the 20th if you're in Columbus, Georgia, or if you're in Georgia at all, that is the State Theater of Georgia. Also, if you are unaware, I am hosting a newscast, which is bi-weekly-ish, called The Spot, where we are covering everything that's current in news for theater and arts and the culture and everything behind the scenes in Springer. We have a very, very, very big episode that's coming up that I did. I'm so excited about it. It'll hit the net soon. You can find it on springeroperahouse.org. I want to tell you more, but I can't, so I'll wait until it's out there. But it's just, I feel so honored to have been able to do it. So you'll hear about it later. Okay, now we're going to talk about body positivity, and we're talking about how it relates to plastic surgery and all these things. I actually want to do this topic because I remember thinking in the 90s how women were supposed to look, right? Women were supposed to be like super thin, and that was the thing back then. And then now women are supposed to have this a whole other shape. They have like the kind of the Coke bottle thing, and how it relates to, and just in general, it got me thinking about how we view ourselves, how we look at what everybody's. I just looked at the screen. Everybody's making faces. What did I say?
Coke bottle.
Coke bottle. Yeah.
Like a shape, and then it's just like flattened down at the bottom.
Well, listen. Let me explain.
So she got
no.
She got broad shoulders.
No. Listen.
She got.
Now y'all haven't seen
that twist off.
Listen, Rakia, you saw Soul Food, right? You've seen Soul Food, right? Okay, y'all haven't seen Soul Food. Okay, that's why you don't know that reference. Soul Food in the movie, he says he's like, oh, he calls this girl old cola. And he's like, what do you mean cola? He said, oh, because her body's shaped like a Coca-Cola bottle. Back in the day, Coca-Cola bottles looked like this. I don't know if they were that.
A glass bottle.
Yeah.
Kind of.
I think a better reference for you would be hourglass shape.
Hourglass, okay,
what you're
sure.
Going for.
What?
Right?
Listen, everybody who know what I said, but we'll say hourglass for the people. But either way, these are, and it kind of got me thinking, like, how men respond to it more. Like, I think even men are up to a different scrutiny now. It's not as bad as women by far, but I hear these conversations happening where you see men getting plastic surgery, getting Botox, getting this lifted, this getting tucked. And it just made me think about what goes on in people's minds to make them actually decide to go under the knife. How many people would be honest about whether or not they've considered going under the knife? If you had the money, would you do it? So that's actually where I want to start. If you had the money, would you go under the knife? You don't have to answer if you don't want to. Would you go under the knife, yay or nay? And if you want to give details, you can. Anybody want to go
Hell
first?
yeah.
You would?
Yeah, hell
You would?
yeah.
What would you do?
Hell yeah. I got some extra baggage right around the midsection, and I can't be like not eating food I want to eat, right? So like, if I could just like, maybe like every 6 months, just kind of go in and have them just kind of drain that out, and then I always have my little 6-pack, and then I just eat pizza all the damn time, and then it's about to be beach season, better go visit.
I don't think that's how it works, though. I don't think you can like keep going back for lipo.
Hey, you just said, hey, in the fantasy world, right? Like you just gave me all the money I want to do stuff with.
Sure.
Right?
Oh, you're right.
So,
you're right. Okay.
Just saying.
Does anyone else want to go?
Yeah, so I'm waiting for the return of the cone breasts. You know what I'm talking about?
the Madonna?
Like,
yeah.
That was the craziest trend I can ever actually think about. Like, nobody's breast is actually shaped like that. So why was it desirable? Like, I get when hips were when you wanted wide hips, there were birthing hips. So you like, a wide birth canal. It kind of makes sense, but like that whole trend of like the cone bras and like the more what, where, how, and why? But no, I mean, for me personally, I think it's I think it's there's always some kind of like pursuit to perfection. So
right.
Without getting too into the weeds as far as like everything, I would say if given the opportunity, I would consider doing some type of plastic surgery, whether it would be a small little thing here and there. But I've kind of come to terms and made peace with my perceived imperfection.
Right.
So I would probably spend my fake fantasy money on other stuff and other people and other causes first.
No, you don't get the money if you're not getting the surgeries.
Oh my God! What is this Tyra's mess makeover? Like,
I'm giving you rules now. You don't get the money.
That's all I have. Okay, all right. So.
Okay. So you would do. Okay. Anybody else want to answer? I have one. I have an answer, but y'all go first.
I don't think I would. Like, I have areas where like I know that it needs work, but I don't think I can bring myself to do plastic surgery. I can't picture myself doing that. I don't know.
I'm gonna go. Luckily for me, the one thing I go back and forth on whether I would actually change this about myself, but it's not considered plastic surgery. It's this little guy right here.
See,
I go back and forth though. I go back and forth because like sometimes like I remember somebody at some point when I was like, oh, I want to be an actor. I was really young and it was like it's right here now, but when I was young, it was like here. Like it just felt like there was nothing with blackness right there. So
that's just because kids lose their 2 front teeth. They grew back in now.
No. My teeth were just that far away. Like there's pictures, there's proof. But so I basically was like, I would think about it, and as a kid, I would always be like, "Oh my God!" As soon as I can get braces, but I couldn't get braces because of how my teeth were coming in. They weren't all in, but by the time they were all in, I didn't want braces anymore. Right? I kind of had gotten used to this, and I like my teeth like this. So that's what I would change. But if it was something else, I feel like I would have a different approach to it because I don't know if my ego would let me do it. To be honest. I feel like the way my brain operates is I don't want to say that I caved to the pressure and got plastic surgery. You know what I'm saying? But I'm sure there's stuff about me that I would change.
Well, I mean, plus you're also like looking at the different options of. I say this while eating, M&Ms from my Halloween candy, but you have. I'm hungry, but you have all of the different options. Like you have, the traditional plastic surgery. So like you'll get your nose done, you'll get breast augmentation, you'll get lipo, but you have like the more superficial and the less invasive options. So like, skin treatments and injections and dental work and hair transplants, things like that. So there's a very wide range of different kinds of, vanity treatments and surgeries that you can do, you know what I mean? And I think that's really interesting to see like all of the different options that we have now, because they start to even like bleed over into the health and wellness realm,
right?
And not so just like, doctor and medical and pharmaceutical options. So there's a very wide range there. So, some treatments purport to have certain benefits, but they may not necessarily be confirmed. So that's a tricky path to take, is that the whole, wellness route of like, what CBD, crystals, like that whole journey, that's a little bit more suspect and suspicious. But
you think that's more suspect and suspicious than plastic surgery?
Well, you have concrete evidence if
Like
something
science.
looks drastically different or not, because you're manipulating it physically,
Yeah.
whether through surgical or chemical or what have you. But then you start to look at some of the more natural options, and it's more about a feeling, and it's more about a perception, and you might actually your skin actually might start to clear up from a treatment of something on the more all natural, all organic side of things. But maybe that's just because of the placebo effect. Maybe it's you're developing confidence in yourself because you believe this treatment is helping you, and so you're less stressed, and so maybe your skin isn't breaking out so much because you aren't as stressed all the time as you were. You know what I mean?
And you're taking better care of yourself because
right.
all of that rolls in on each other.
Right. Mm-hmm.
So my question is, what is it that takes a person? Because everyone here pretty much said, "Oh yeah, there's something I would change." And honestly, I think if you ask anybody, no matter who they are, most people have something about themselves they would change.
Oh, yeah.
Most of the people that could have changed it already changed it. Maybe we just can't tell they changed it because they could pay for them good doctors. Okay, but I think most people have something about themselves they're insecure about. Now, what do you think? Kim, what was that statistic that you had said before?
And it's actually different. It was less. So 16 million, and that included the invasive procedures. The one
like Botox?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
So 16 million, it was 2018, and then it's actually lessened with each year. So that next year it was just a little under 16 million in 2019.
But it's still around 60 million. Okay. You're saying that 60 million people actually get plastic surgery in those years?
Some form. Yep.
Okay, that's a good chunk of people. That's a percentage of the people that Trump lost by. No, I'm playing. My point in saying that is what do you think it is that goes from I just want a little this to the instances of people who look like entirely different human beings from who they were before? What do you think it is that takes them from one space to the other? Just an opinion, because none of us are experts. Gonna preface it by there.
Go ahead, Justin. Yeah, start it.
So I think there's people that are predisposed, whether physically or mentally, they're predisposed to being susceptible to suggestion. You know what I mean? So when you have all of these influences coming at you, whether it be through the media, whether it be through your social circles, whether it be through just your own insecurities or perceived problems with your own body, then I think that you're more susceptible to reading into those promises and believing those before and after beauty transformations is oh, well, if they can do it, then I can too. And I don't want to look like this. I want to look like that. How do I get there? And then you start going through the process of, okay, I'm going to start with this and then get that and then go and then more and then more. And this is what I'm going to eventually end up as. So it's a slippery slope for those types of people because they have it in the industry. There's red flags that come up, and there's things like trigger words like perfection and one more and I'm done. Things kind of like that are yield signs to responsible practitioners that they start to have further consultations to really drill down what's happening emotionally and mentally with their client, to make sure that they're not feeding into a greater issue with that person that is eventually going to end up damaging them in the long run, whether it be from a health perspective or whether it be from a mental health perspective. So you have those, some of those safety nets kind of built in, but if you've got the money you will find someone who will do the work that you want to get done
without
and
not care about them red
that
flags.
no. And that's the sad thing, because then it becomes a vicious cycle that that is not going to stop anytime soon for that person. So I think that's very, very unfortunate for people who find themselves in those positions. And it's a lot of evaluation. It's a lot of self-reflection. It's a lot of therapy to get them back to a place of what we would consider rational thinking about their appearance. But it's very, I mean, we've all seen the shows. We've all seen those episodes of Maury. We've all seen those episodes of Botched. We've seen those episodes of, what have you, Tyra's Meth Makeover, like whatever it is, like where
that just landed.
where people get their fairy tale surgery,
right.
or it goes drastically wrong. There's one or two. It's one or the other. It's like you're either crazy nuts and you look crazy nuts, or you have come into something that was a tragic accident or a birth defect or something like that, and there's this will and desire to be accepted in mainstream society, and so I want to try to fix this and correct this. So it's very broad in that way.
It is broad. There's definitely a lot. I mean, because you think about cosmetic surgery, like a cleft palate repair, that's cosmetic surgery, right? But nobody would say, "Oh my gosh, you shouldn't have got your cleft palate repaired."
Is that this thing right here?
That. It's this right. So you'll see people with the scar, little scar right there.
Okay.
So you see that kind of thing as okay, that's positive. We always use the term plastic surgery, but really we're talking cosmetic surgery in general. I do think that there can be that sort of slippery slope thing where someone would be like, oh, there's just this one thing. They go in, they get it fixed, and then it worked out really well, right? Like, oh wow, that's a lot better. What if my earlobe is just a little too attached on one side than it is on the other, so maybe I just get them to pull it out a little, and I can see that it could go a certain way, and I do think that there are people who will get addicted to that feeling like they've taken a step closer to some sort of perfection, and just like there is with any sort of thing that gives people any kind of rush, gambling or drug abuse, etc. But there are really good things that come, even stuff that people might not think are really important. Young lady I knew, she had a really soft chin, right? So it just, from her jaw to here, it didn't come out at all, her chin, and so it just almost almost like Mitch McConnell, I guess, because he doesn't really have a chin, huh? Anyway, and I'm not trying to make fun. I'm just trying to imagine an example. But she had she was in a relationship, but then she left the relationship. Well, she didn't leave the relationship. The man left the relationship, but for a woman that hit all the marks on what society says this is a beautiful person, right? And so that really hit her pretty hard.
Of course.
And when she went in and got work done basically, and so they gave her a chin. That's what they did, is they gave her a chin, and she was out for a week. She came back in, and it was a totally different person, completely different. In terms of her confidence, number one, and she was, absolutely, before she seemed like this mousy sort of nerd girl, and now she was, actually more expressive, more outgoing, and all of those things combined. So it's not just the fact that she didn't have a soft chin anymore. It was that gave her confidence that then translated into her personality. And just attractive people are not always just attractive for their looks. They're attractive for a lot of reasons, right?
Right.
So it can be really beneficial that way.
I guess no. Does anyone else want to go?
would just say that personally, I've never gotten a tattoo. It was a big deal when I got my ears double pierced.
Never got a tattoo?
I've never had a tattoo.
Kim, you are a techie.
I know.
You're supposed to have like 3.
But I know my disposition, and
Okay.
I was just like, if I got one, then I probably want to get another, and then another, and then another. And that's the other reason why for me, and that's for me, it's like, if I don't think I would ever get plastic surgery. Maybe like the invasive stuff, the stuff that's not extreme.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, this is what I was given, and I have to live with it. And if I don't take care of it, that's my fault. So why should I have somebody fix it for me? Like genetics, I've got this really great double chin going on, because that's just, if you saw my mom, you'd understand. So I just, I try to take care of myself as best I can. I fail miserably constantly. That's my choice. But I applaud those that they get it done and it improves their life. So that's where, like, the body positivity, I'm always going to have those extra pounds. And back in the day with the Botticellis, the paintings of those voluptuous women, I just was born in the wrong century.
That's what I was trying to say when I first started the conversation, is that, like, when you really go throughout history, there was a time in history where every body type was the body type. And it, which makes, but now we know that. Now we know that. Like, so why can't we start to instill in each other better, not instilling each other necessarily. Why can't it? I think it should be more normalized that we are not only more accept, because I think people talk about being accepting of it, but then you still see there's one body type that people are applauding right now very vocally. And so it drives people who don't have that body type, because there's a lot of people getting stuff like these ass shots are killing these girls, literally killing them, because they'll get silicone injected into their butt. And so it'll end up in their bloodstreams and burst and they'll die. It's all weird kind of stuff. You can have silicone in your freaking veins. So, and then also it doesn't always look natural. You can tell when a girl has butt implants because her hips aren't wide and her legs are not wide. So it's kind of like
hip implants.
But if there were a thing, you'd have to get like all these other surgeries, but you can tell. So to me, I'm just like, look, I feel like I think a girl is beautiful. I think everybody's beautiful as they are. Like, but I get the impulse. So how do we find that balance of making people feel more confident? Because I think that's what it really comes down to. Like what you just said, like making more people feel like what you just said. Like, look, this is my body, and that's what I got. So we should be supporting people like Lizzo when she gets on stage and says and does what she wants to say.
Well, I think that's happening. I think that's happening in this day and age. That is more common. That is a more accessible mindset to come across when you are on social media. Now, social media itself and media as a whole, you do find these trends. You like, especially in the beauty and the makeup industry, you'll find those types of those greater narratives that are driving the fashion world, the beauty world, the like whatever it is, and it that bleeds into the greater culture. It starts, it's influenced in music, it's influenced in art, it's influenced in every other aspect of those permeable, markets, you might say. So I think that when you have that type of awareness of body positivity, and acceptability, and it comes down the line as okay to be an individual, then it's not as taboo to not look like the typical cheerleader. It looks okay not to look like the beauty blogger. It looks okay because we start to get those additional examples of, okay, here's someone who has a larger body frame And so this is beautiful and this is healthy for that type of body. And then we have the people who are on the other end of the spectrum, super thin and just rails, and they're like, okay, well this is healthy and this is appropriate for, you know, for this type of body. But if you get
Body
on
type,
body type, right? And then, you know, everything in between is just a spectrum. And I think that the more we talk about body positivity, we have to talk about the spectrum therein. Of course, there's some people that will say, well, once you get so big, you start to encounter health risks, and that's true.
I'm about to say that after you're done.
Yeah. Like when we start talking about that also goes both ways. You physically are unhealthy once you get too large and too skinny, like too small.
Yes,
it goes both ways. So you have to know your genetic disposition, what you're predisposed, just as in general, like what's your family medical history? Like, is it, do you have heart disease in the family? Do you have cancer that runs in the family? Do you have mental illness that runs in the family? Things like that. So you at least have that awareness to know, okay, this is me. I'm accepting of me, and I'm going to be okay with not looking exactly like every single supermodel that I see in the Victoria's Secret fashion show, because that's not going to be me,
So let me ask y'all a question. What do you as an individual do for your own personal body positivity?
Because I haven't gotten to that point yet, but I try to make sure that whatever I do, it's not for the superficial reason of like trying to attract someone, or just knowing that if I'm doing this, I want to do this because it's either good for my mental health, it's good for my self-care, it's good for my physical health.
Right.
Like having those priorities in mind for me doing anything that could change how my body looks. So that's what I would have to, I guess that's my thoughts on that.
Mm-hmm.
Just being to the point where you want to be comfortable in your skin.
Yes.
Like that's the ultimate goal. You want to be comfortable and healthy in your skin. And that's, you have to do some soul searching on what that may be or what that might look like for you.
Okay. Anyone else want to say something about that? Anyone else want to answer that question?
I wear what I want to.
Huh?
I wear what I want to.
You wear what you want to.
I don't wear dresses. I don't wear heels. I work in a scene shop 24/7. So I wear hoodies and knit or sweat like pants. So that's my uniform for work. And I don't wear makeup. I'm probably the least feminine, but I am a woman. So it's like, for me, it's not about attracting for me as well. It's waking up, looking in the mirror, and this is what I am. This is who I am. And I'm okay with that. I'm single. I don't necessarily have to be married to be happy, because I think that's a stigma that
drives
our society full force. For it doesn't matter what your sexual preference is. A lot of just that drive of having a partner. So for me, yeah, sure, I'd love to have a relationship, but I get anxiety when I start thinking about it, because it's like, oh man, and then I'd have to deal with that, and then
right. Once you're in the relationship, it's cool, but like getting there, it's like, oh my god.
So for me, body positivity, it's fine because nobody has to see my body except for me. So it is what it is, and yeah, I could probably lose 50 pounds, but I'm comfortable where I'm at. I can lift quite a bit of weight, because 5-gallon buckets of paint are pretty heavy, and I can carry them. So I'm okay,
Right.
I don't know. It's really hard when you're bombarded visually with what the society's ideal of perfection is or beauty. And I think for young girls especially, it has to happen, and for boys, for men and women, that when you're being raised, it's really important, that relationship with your parents and what they are telling you, that what you're seeing every day is not necessary. That's not the norm. That's just a small fraction of our society that is trending right now. That's what's really popular right now. And showing history and the evolution of people's fashion and body types, and what women had to do to be beautiful and desirable and be married. It's just crazy. Because at one point it was all about the bustle, and at another point it was all about the tiny, tiny waist, and then at other points it was about having no actual physical line at all. And then at another point it was the Twiggy evolution, which was like rail thin, unachievable, and that woman was just naturally thin. And then we've even had a trend where it was athletic. Like it was really, really attractive to be athletic and very muscular for men and women. So it's like if the youth could actually be shown that and said, see, every 5 years there's a new trend and it's going to change. And as long as you are happy with who you are and how you feel, that should be all that matters. But a lot of that conversation has to take place in the home.
I agree with that. I agree with you on the part about it being at home. I feel like a lot of the things that happen, as far as me, my body positivity, I think getting older is going to be an issue for me, especially being in the gay community. Being in the gay community, being a dude, the physical standards under which I feel are necessary to be desirable are sometimes very difficult to maintain, especially as you get older, because it's like the energy is not the same. My knees, goodness gracious, my knees and my lower back. Do y'all understand? Like sweeping is an activity that I dread. I dread sweeping anything, because literally that's the only activity that when I'm doing something, I'm like, oh, you need to lift that? You need me to do that? Oh, and can you sweep there? I'm like, in my head, I'm like, fuck.
What kind of like Hobbit broom are you using?
Right.
Well, it's literally that's the problem. It's so bad that like any amount of leaning forward for me for too long, like I think it's the muscle. I don't think it's it doesn't feel like the bone. I think it's muscle, because it's the same thing that hurts when I do deadlifts, but it hurts quickly. And literally, I will be that old man holding a broom in the hallway. Ooh. You know
I think that's also like maybe about your form. Like
it might be, but I do have to remind myself. Like, you're right.
This is you sweeping. Like
whatever. Get out of here. Whatever.
Hunchback and Notre Dame. I don't know why my back hurts, y'all. My back and my knees, they so bad. I'm just sweeping.
Whatever.
Like
for me, it's difficult. I just realized whatever. I feel like this. As you get older, your body starts to do weird things, and you feel pressure to like fix these things. Like I remember, like when I was younger. Well, one thing will always be great. I have great thighs. But besides that, like other stuff, I'm like, oh, that's not like it was before. That's not like it was before. And the pressure that I feel to maintain it is something that I was told about by older dudes when I was younger who were gay. Now I'm like, oh, this is what you meant. Of course, at the time, I'm like, okay, yeah, sure. But it's like, okay, I get it. But now I think I'm still young. So I'm young enough to kind of be able to really set the knees and the back. Yep, the knees and the back.
See, like no one told us that like when you turn 30, that's like when you really actually start dying.
Oh my God, it is. That's what it feels like. It feels like your body said, all right, buddy. But it's like because... But the point is, like, it's harder to exercise. So not hard. Yeah, it's harder to exercise. It's harder to when you see a problem area, you want to attack. My body's changed in a lot of ways, and not just in. I used to like the really like slim athletic version of me, but that's not really possible anymore. Now I'm like big
dancer body.
Yeah, my dancer body was like slim athletic. Now I'm like I look like the dude who's about to walk into a room and punch somebody. Like. Muscles, but I had to accept that that's what my body was going to do, which was doing. That's what it was doing. if I didn't accept that that's what my body was doing, I don't know if I would have changed my activities to fit that. I would have been trying. If that make any sense, what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Okay.
and that's true. Like we talk about dad bod a lot.
Yes.
You know, like that's in the ethos now. Like, you know, oh, dad bod.
Yeah.
Like, sure, yes, but like
That's
you have
the
to
straight
understand.
version of a bear, basically.
Yeah.
That's
Not really. Dad bod isn't technically a bear. Bears. Never. I'll tell you later. I'll tell you later.
which is
Another
different. Which is different from daddy. Which is different from zaddy.
Yes.
We'll have an episode. We'll have an
A
episode.
zaddy.
Y'all gonna learn today.
Because when we think about like if you, and I wish they teach this in like high school and in health class, like the
rainbow?
the rainbow, the complete journey that your body will go on during your lifetime. You know, because you really keep growing. Like you usually on an average you plateau about 25 or so. Like that's when you really hit all, like that's when your systems really start to level out and just be what they are going to be. And then you have some systems that are kind of like they're over the hill now. They're going to start to slow down slowly, and like that's over the hill, right? And then people kind of get caught off guard because that is, you know, traditionally around the same time that people would, you know, start to get married, start to have kids, start to settle into a career, usually associated with a desk job. So your activity level changes because you're out of your scholastic years. So you're done with high school, you're done with college, and you're now in a different phase of life, which is also coupled with your change in metabolism, your change in cell turnover, your change in a lot of different things. And then you start to realize, oh, I can't eat like I used to. And by the time you start to like see the signs and like realize, you're like, oh, damn.
The worst part. Oh my God. I'm from the South. So like having that moment of being like, oh, I can eat like I used to is literally like telling me Santa Claus doesn't exist. That's the equivalent. But for me, body positivity comes through my self-talk. Because when I have those moments where I don't feel like my body's what I want it to be, I have to remind myself, first of all, it's a body and it can change. You can change it. You can change it without, it'll take longer. But also, like I said, like my ego works to where I want to change it the long way so that when I get there, I'm like, you know, but it's possible. It's possible. It might be difficult, but there's people who have bodies that they've changed so drastically, healthily. It's possible. So I tell myself that whenever I don't feel like, you know, now the other things I want to change about I would love to get like 3 inches, 3 more inches right here up top. I mean, of my head, my oh my God, on the top, because this is going to be audio later and they can't see me on the top of my body. I would like to grow 3 more inches in height. That works. Yes,
that's the word. Right.
That works. So
it was fun until you decided you had to clarify. Actually,
right.
it was good. Right. It was good, and then you were like,
"Oh wait."
Yeah, roll with it.
So my mind is just
more inches. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Okay. but I know that can't really happen. So besides that, I feel like it's just like, okay, I have those moments where I see something and I want to change it. I was like, all right, so when I go into the gym, I know I need to do more sit-ups. I know I need to run more, whatever. I'm not running though.
Well, you know, what's interesting is that, you know, back to kind of like what I was saying, that journey is either like kind of already instilled in you from that mental perspective of yourself. Mm-hmm. But then like some people, like once they get that later in life realization of, oh, my body's changing or it's not like it used to be, they go through a second phase of that. And it's, you know, sometimes called a midlife crisis. Sometimes it's, you know, it manifests itself in other ways. And you start to realize that this is a constant thing I have to talk to myself about. And this is something that is going to be a journey for me, because when you're a teenager, it's every other week, growth spurt on this and that. And then, you know, you get to that place of kind of like leveling out a little bit. In college, you're about the same height, you're about the same weight for a while, and you're like, okay, cool, I'm out on my own, and I can kind of like make my own decisions, and this is the person that I want to be. And then you a few years later, you start to realize that, okay, now my body's changing even more. I'm getting older. My metabolism's slowing down, XYZ.
Right.
And so you have to have that conversation with yourself again. And it is a journey. It's a constant conversation, and it's easier for some people than for others, because like I said, if you see some of these people trying to put the biggest, ugliest Band-Aid on their midlife crisis, they're going to go out buy cars. They're going to divorce their wife. They're going to go chase some young tail. They're going to do all kind of crazy stuff instead of looking inward to say, I need to deal with my mental headspace first, and then I can start to deal with the external, whether that's physical, whether that's professional, whether that's emotional. I have to look inward first, because if I just try to apply superficial fixes to what's happening, then I'm always going to be chasing the dragon. And I need to understand that it's all coming from a place of personal perspective.
It's I know you're gonna say something, Ricky, so I'm going to do next. It's interesting that you say that. I just want to comment on what Kim said about it being. I do agree. Now that I think about it, it goes back to the parents. My mom the other day, I don't know what I said to her, but it was really in passing. I think I said it to myself. And she was like, because I'm bigger now, like I'm fitting into my new body. And she just said something that was very affirmative about it. Mm-hmm. You know what I'm saying? Even now, she could, first of all, her being a mother that's present, she could tell that I needed to hear that. But she just enforced in me that, like maybe what I think is attractive isn't what's attractive, and maybe like what works for, kind of just a way of thinking about it. So I feel like it really does go back to the parents, like parents who are constantly telling their children to find their worth on their own instead of finding it in other people are definitely going to instill within their children traits that they need to traverse this world when it comes to loving yourself and loving your body. Rukia?
Well, I was thinking about something else that we were talking about, just like how to find like that body positivity. Like if I'm thinking of how a way of like I want to change something about myself, it all deals with habits that I had to work on. So like if I know there's like I go through my spurts of like wanting to be more healthy and lose weight, and I'm like, those are like habits that are really hard to break. Also holding on to those good habits that I know that I should have. And, like certain things stick better than others, but like, that's just me having to really like take the time to consider, like thinking about it. Like, what are the habits that I know hinder my body positivity? And what are the ones that I know will help me feel good about myself? And so like, it's a whole mindset of just having to think about those habits that can affect your body positively.
Side note, healthy habits, fruit. Now, I did learn that fruit is, there are these things that have seeds in them. And generally they're fruit. Generally they're sweet. They generally grow from trees, right? Fruits are trees. Veggies are from the ground. Yeah. So they generally grow. No, generally most fruit either grows on a vine or it grows from a tree. Mm-hmm. Most vegetables actually grow from the ground, and the veggie stays underground.
I'm sorry, everybody.
Which one is a tomato?
A fruit.
Okay, good.
It's on a vine. It's on a vine. If it has seeds, it's a fruit. If it doesn't, it's a tomato. Except for cucumbers, though. I'm sorry, it's a tomato. If it doesn't, it's a vegetable. Sorry. Pineapple does have seeds.
Mm-hmm.
Squash.
Where?
I don't know. They have them.
It's inside.
In the middle.
Core, and then there's little black seeds all along there. But usually if you buy it store-bought, they've taken all that out. So if you buy a fresh pineapple, that's where you'll find the black seeds.
And that's from Kim Manuel. And she don't state nothing but facts, bruh. So, but yeah, fruits are great for you. So if you want like healthy habits, I found healthy habits like last night, 2 nights ago, I wanted some dessert. I go to the refrigerator and there's my favorite ice cream sitting there, just staring me in the face. But
so you ate it.
And the other side, there was yogurt that was rich in fiber. It was the extra fiber yogurt. Which one did I eat? I ate the yogurt because it craved my sweet tooth, and it was good for yogurt's very good for digestion, and it's actually very good for burning fat. And it tastes awesome. So
you're gonna eat that ice cream eventually?
Oh yeah, it's gonna get ate.
All right, well, there goes.
No, but that's not the point. It's not the point. It's not the point. The point is what you do is you load what I do is I load my surroundings up with a lot of great options. Because what happens is we get in those moments where we're hungry and we don't want to cook. That's really the Achilles heel. That's the Achilles heel of trying to develop healthy habits. So if you put a lot of stuff around you that you can eat that you don't have to cook, that is healthy, you'll make those
Chips
choices.
Ahoy?
I mean,
only soft batch because the hard cookies are garbage.
Yeah.
Only if they're like, go ahead.
Is that, I mean, it's basically the equivalence of like buying the double stuffed Oreos versus like the store brand double stuffed Oreos. You know that you're going to knock out those Oreos in a night. But if the store brand Oreos are there, you're like, they don't taste as good. Maybe I just will eat like a salad.
That has never happened to me.
That has never happened to me either. Listen, but I'm saying like making healthy habits is a big part of body positivity because of what Kim said. You decide to take care of your body. It's not just about how your body's going to look afterward. It's also, to me, about how your body's going to feel. I will be honest with you. Like if I go a few days eating mostly fish and vegetables and fruit and grains and stuff, goodness gracious, my energy is like, pew. You know what I'm saying? But, then I add a steak to the menu. And then the next day, I might not even notice it that much. But then after a while, I'm like, man, I don't have as much energy as I had. Like, so part of that body positivity is not even just not physically protecting your body, but also, the way you visually. Yes. Yeah. Internal and external. Absolutely. Yes. Tamika Jackson, who's one of our panelists, said that his go-to snacks, yogurt, raisins, dried mangoes, and banana chips. Trail mix is great. And also peanuts or nuts of any kind. Cashews, almonds.
I really like the salted caramel almonds they sell.
Salted caramel?
Yeah. So
I can't do
it's
salt and
with
caramel. I can't do that. That's gross.
I'm just saying.
People eat ice cream like that.
I'll eat like a whole container like in one sitting.
Okay, so that's
good for me, right? Because it's nuts, right?
I mean, honestly, I can't even lie to you. Yes, part of it is good. Part of it is, honestly, nuts are, when you now as a person, you need fat. You absolutely need fat. You just don't need all kinds of fat. The best kind of fat, I actually found out that salmon is good fat. It's better fat than like pig fat or like steak fat, but salmon fat is actually not the best fat for you. It's actually kind of too fattening. And avocado fat is too fattening. So you have to balance the fat that you get.
There goes my avocado toast, man.
Listen, I thought I had learned something when I started eating avocados. But anyway, so that's our body positivity and our plastic surgery conversation for tonight. We're going to go to commercial break and we're going to come back for final thoughts.
How long have you all been married? How long have we been married?
When this video posts, what
can wash away?
Anyway, pretty much 7 years, pretty much.
Nothing but the blood.
Here she goes again from the last video. Trying to get me to smell something. Who can make?
Sing, bang. Behold, I can. Nothing but the blood of Jesus.
Hey, Lord.
Hi, I'm Jessalyn Pease Garrett, author of Timeless, The Law of the Coven, my new book that came out August 1st of this year. This is the second in the Timeless series, and it features a teenage witch. She's gonna hone her magical abilities, and we're gonna pit her against a dark coven of witches. So I hope you enjoy this book as much as I enjoyed writing it. Timeless, The Law of the Coven is available online from all your favorite retailers. Thanks, guys.
That was the Mompreneur Plug, which you can find on YouTube, youtube.com/c/Mompreneur Plug. The Mompreneur Plug is a YouTube channel where you are going to find advice on how to mother. Well, not advice on how to mother, but tips and hacks, life hacks for mothers, life hacks for entrepreneurs, and also great comedy sketches. And the other is from Timeless, The Law of the Coven, which is the second in an anthology from Jessalyn Peace Garrett's series of books. You know, we all love supernatural things. Here we got 3 geeks. Wait, actually, I feel like we have 5 geeks for real. So this is like Geeking Out, like sister podcast. Not yes, it is. Sister. Look, okay, all right.
Yes.
Final thoughts. This is the part of the show where we decide. This is the portion of the show where we say our final thoughts. We're going to say what we hope that you leave with as a viewer and or what we're taking away from the conversation this evening. And to get it started, let's go to Mr. Danny Yoon.
All right. So we actually kind of talk more, I think, about just body positivity in general than plastic surgery or cosmetic surgery. I think that at the end of the day, we kind of decided that sometimes cosmetic surgery can be good. Just, you know, how you feel about it, but just kind of don't get in that trap of just always chasing that next point of perfection, what have you. Getting into body positivity, you know, there's a lot to be said about a lot of different ways that people's habits contribute to their body shape and the way that they feel about themselves. And there are definitely a lot of arguments that people make about, you know, health, about, you know, the very real idea that our lizard brain is looking for certain things when it's seeing people that cause attraction or that cause you to be not attracted, etc. Those are all very real things. The problem, though, is that if it's a health issue, okay, that's between the person and their doctor. You know, you don't need to be the one telling them that they need to, like, watch out for their health. Like, if you're not their mom, if you're not like a close friend who can talk to them about those kinds of things, if you're just like some random asshole on the street, shut up. Like, right. It is not your place, right? Like, let them be happy. You do you, they do them. It's cool, you know? And that's just kind of like, to me, that's the reality. That's where we need to go. That's how we fix a lot of these problems. It's just, like, stop being judgy and putting your judgments on others. Like, keep it in your head. We think things all the time. Just leave it there. It's cool. You see somebody, you think they look ugly, you think they look overweight, you think any of these things. Okay, cool. Shut up. That's it. That's my final thoughts.
I like your final thoughts. I agree with most of them. All right. Danny, who you can find at Rem Alternus. You can also find him Tuesday nights, 8 o'clock, Master of Rem on Twitch, twitch.tv/Master of REM, the Game Master, and yours truly. All right. Next, let's go to Kim.
I think final thoughts. I was just thinking about how it's so easy to surround yourself with the wrong people.
Okay.
Your support system, you might not be aware of it, that you have just toxic and not positive influences around you. So yes, you know, if you have positive parents or siblings, you might not have that. You might not have the family structure to give you that support. So the friends, the work colleagues, anyone that can help you get from day to day, especially if you're struggling with with how you look, how you feel about yourself. Because I can tell you right now that personally, I'm in my 40s now, and I still struggle with body positivity. I go through stretches of time where I look in the mirror and I'm like, what happened? What did I do? And then there's months that go by and everything's fine, because I also tend to not focus on it. I tend to focus on my work. I tend to focus on others, and it allows me to not be so obsessed. For me, that obsession might not be the right word for other people, but it allows me to separate from my own, self-infliction, changing the dialogue in my head to be more positive, to actually help somebody else makes me feel better about myself. And every person is different in how they get that feeling of purpose and of the self-love. You might do an activity that makes you love yourself more. It might be your job. It might be having a family. It might be something else. But for me, it's when I am available and there to help others, that's when I feel better about myself. So it's finding what that is about you that will help you in the future. And to not be so hard on yourself. Oh, dear God. If I could talk to my younger self, the one that's your age, Duryea, I'd be like, just get over it. Actually enjoy yourself. Go be crazy. Go have fun. Go make those big major mistakes.
Go make the mistake. You would tell me to go make some mistakes?
No, me.
Oh, okay.
I was too reserved. I was too just like scared to do anything exciting. I'd be like, get over it. Just take the risk. Just do it. And not like break the law kind of risk. But,
I know what you're talking about. You got to preface it though. You got to let them know.
Yeah. No, don't make the law fun, but just go have fun.
Excellent. Awesome. Thank you very much. And let's go to Justin. So loud.
So
I'm just being funny.
Okay. The thing that I want to leave everyone with is, if there's anything that we've learned from 2020, specifically just the quarantine age of COVID, is the uncertainty of tomorrow and the opportunities that we find even in dark times. So even if you find yourself in a dark place, try to find the silver lining. So, as an example, for me, I was, home alone for all summer. And so I had a lot of opportunities to make some very distracted decisions. And I then had a realization and started a journey of self-betterment and self-accountability in a situation that I probably would not have found myself in if COVID never happened. So now I am in a much better place, mentally, physically, spiritually. And I look at that as an asset and as an opportunity that I was presented with during the time of quarantine. And it's times like that where you can backslide a little bit if things are just completely turned upside down, but then also have that moment of picking yourself back up and putting yourself back together and saying, okay, what can I make out of this? What kind of lemonade can I get out of these lemons right now to set myself up to come out of this even stronger in some way, shape, or form? It might not be everything, but there is something to be said for, seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And I think no matter what situation you find yourself in, if you're a teenager, if you are, a young adult, if you're a more seasoned individual, then you might have some amount of that within you that you didn't even know that you had. And it's all just about tapping into it and making the making the commitment to go down that path. And it is going to be a journey down that path, and just be okay with the day-to-day work that you have to do to maintain and enjoy the walk through the garden, getting to your final destination. So that's what I would like to leave everyone as far as that's concerned.
All right. Okay. So you know who's next? Keeks.
Hey. So
Hey.
So if anything, and this has probably been the biggest thing for 2020, is be kind to yourself and give yourself some grace. Just, because we all have things that we want to fix, but at the same time, there's got to be more for yourself. So, be kind to yourself. That's a good start. Show yourself some grace. Do some soul searching. Really be mindful of the things that the things you tell yourself, the things you listen to, the things people you surround yourself with, and also be mindful of the things you do to your body. So those are my final thoughts.
Excellent. And you can find Ricky at Ricky_Z on IG and Twitter at @RickyZ. Ricky is spelled with an EY. And you can also see her every other Monday on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Twitch at DayGamer, DayGaymer, on Geeking Out. Next episode, we're talking about Christmas movies. Yes.
If you have not seen last week's episode, we were talking about our favorite shows that were cut off too soon, and that was a wild episode. So if you haven't had a chance to watch or listen to that, you can find us on YouTube and Anchor and all your favorite podcast sites.
And when you listen to the episode or watch the episode, please let us know how you feel about the show. Yes. Let us know if you like what we're talking about, if you don't like what we're doing, and all that other stuff. All right, great. So before we let everybody go, I'm going to thank everybody for joining us, whether you joined us for 5 seconds or for the whole hour, 2 hours. I want to thank you because you all at home and you all in the comments are what make this show a reality, and you're a huge part of the show. I want to thank the panelists for donating their time and for everyone who's here spending their Thanksgiving with us. This is my happiest, best, favoriteest time of the year. After this, I'm going to put up a Christmas tree. So I'm just very glad to be here. Remember, you can find us on YouTube at Whoa Nelly Media. That's WOENELLY Media. Subscribe to our YouTube page, or you can find us on Facebook at Whoa Nelly Media or at WNM Talk It Out. Please like our Talk It Out page or our Whoa Nelly Media page. And you can also find us on Instagram by going to Whoa Nelly Media or WNM_Talk It Out, where you can always find us. My final thought for today, is to say, essentially, yes, I like what Rakia said about giving yourself a little grace, but give other people a little grace too. Consider your words and how they're going to land on people. It might be the smallest thing that you said, not even to a person, not even directed it at them, but it lands on that person in the corner that you're saying something horrible about somebody else. And so just be careful with the words that come out of your mouth and who's around and who could hear them. And if those words were directed at you or your child or something like that, and how would that feel? So just be more considerate of others. Treat them like it's the golden rule, man. Treat people like you would want to be treated. If you were born in the era where your body type was the body type, okay, cool. How are you treating people that don't have that body type? And just be aware. Also, men out there, not men, anybody, millennials out there, boy, we didn't know it was going to be like this, did it? Knees, elbows, and toes. Can't even do it. So be kind to people as they age as well. That's a whole nother episode. All right. I want to thank everybody for joining us. And I want to remind you to come back and see us, where Talk It Out is a place where people of opposing views can get together and have a healthy, productive dialogue in a respectful way, keeping in mind that it's not always about proving who's right or who's wrong. Sometimes it's simply about listening and being heard. Happy Thanksgiving.